Hey, it's 1228. It's Todd Ault. This is a special episode of Risk On. We're going to talk about Gresham Worldwide. So obviously this video is going to replay. We're live now, but we'll replay the video. We'll edit the video to make sure we cover Nile and what we have to be doing here in terms of just kind of covering what this meant, and we're going to try to get information out. It'll be on my Twitter, so we'll link this broadcast to my Twitter account so you can obviously be fully disclosed and watch the video in terms of Gresham Worldwide. We can go to my screen real quick. It's the 28th of December, December 28th. We're right up against New Year's. We made a special announcement this morning. Let's cover that real quickly here. Gigatronics, BitNile, Gresham Worldwide signed an agreement, share exchange agreement. What does that mean here? I gotta make sure I do this right here. Okay, yeah, cool. I can mark on the screen, right? So Gigatronics is a publicly traded company. BitNile is the old DPW, All Global. And then Gresham Worldwide is a subsidiary, right? Hold on a second here. So Gresham Worldwide is a subsidiary. Gresham Worldwide makes up of Microphase, Enertech, the Gresham Limited, and Relac that we own in England. I think there's four subsidiaries there, and I think the decision was made here that this is run by a separate management team, J.R. Reed, Tim Long, but it's a wholly owned subsidiary, Gresham Worldwide, of what you know as BitNile. Now, they make, obviously, bespoke electronic solutions for the defense industry. Just want to be kind of covering that with everyone in terms of what they do. I'm going to go back off this because this doesn't allow me to scroll up. So give me a second here, and I will skip out of this because it opens a new screen when I do that. And we'll go down to the other part of the press release now. We can go back to my screen if you want to. We're making them a $4.25 million loan, the combined company, right here. I'll do this little screen again here. I like this a lot. We're making them a $4.25 million loan, if you can see right here. This is a loan that will allow them to pay off their preferred, and BitNile will end up with approximately 68% of the company. I think it's going to be 68 to 70%. So think about it as the public company that is Giga will have, their shareholders will have a third of the company, and our shareholders will have 2/3. Now, it's important to understand that BitNile, until it's separated from Ault Alliance, will consolidate those sales. So that 40 million or so will show up on the consolidated balance sheet of BitNile Holdings, and then eventually, so you consolidate it at the top line, and at the second to the bottom line, you back out the minority interest. So 66% of those sales on a fully consolidated basis, but you report the entire number, right? But here's a key factor that I'm trying to point out, everyone. After the combination, I'm highlighting it right now. Can you go to my screen? After the combination, Giga will be a majority owned subsidiary of Ault Alliance. And this is important to understand that sort of the legacy, sort of old school, not Bitcoin, not DeFi, not data center, is part of the Ault Alliance brand that'll be spun out to shareholders. The plan is in 2022. So not only will you as a shareholder eventually own shares of BitNile, but you will eventually, if everything goes as planned and the spinoff is approved and we get the tax-free exchange, et cetera, all the criteria met, you'll get a share of some sort of share pro rata of Ault Alliance. Now, Ault Alliance obviously will own, what do they own? They own the new combined Giga, which will be Gresham Worldwide. About 68% of that will be consolidated. So this is important to understand. You can go off the screen now. It's important to understand that as a shareholder, when you go to separate the company, we're clearly aligning the businesses that make sense in Ault Alliance, which you'll see is Turn On Green, Gresham Worldwide now merged with Giga, but majority controlled. The old MTIX International, we don't know the outcome of whether that'll be consolidated or not, but that's part of the lender. There's a $20 million loan to what you guys, some people joked about, called the pasta company, but they make these machines that obviously treat fabric. Inside there, you'll see the lender, you'll see the hotel group and the hospitality group run by, which is Agree, which is our real estate business. You'll see all the other aspects that are not Bitcoin mining. They're not DeFi, which is Earnity, and they're not the data center. Now, let's go off this screen for a second and go back to the press release. I'm going to scroll up here. So I keep trying to point this out here. We've talked about these for a long time. If you look at the PowerPoints that have been distributed, we have talked about a go public transaction for the defense business for a better part of maybe a year and a half. It's been a long time. And therefore, this is a combination of JR and Tim's work. And so, obviously, the question you have to ask yourself, and I'm not suggesting they will or they won't, but if they have 40 million in sales, what's the logical conclusion? Do they uplist? And the resounding answer to me is obviously that would make the logical next step would be is get them merged, go to uplist to the NASDAQ or the New York American. So we're really comfortable with this transaction because this defense business, which goes back in some case 64 years for, I believe, for Gresham Limited. Enertech is, I think, 24 or 25 years. Relac, I think, is 20-something years, maybe even 32, actually, Relac. Gresham, Microphase is 65 years. These are old legacy defense businesses that JR and Tim are really putting a nice spin on. Their team, along with Zvika and the people at Relac, the two women that run Gresham Limited, the entire team is really revamped these defense businesses, and they talk about having 60 major defense contractors as their clients. The scale will allow them to get larger clients, larger contracts. The scale will allow them to expand their balance sheet and be able to take on more risk where they're prepaid for work. You know, a lot of times when contractors give you work, they want to see that you have the ability to handle the work, right? I'll give you a true story. A couple years ago, Digital Power, which is a subsidiary of Turn On Green, it had a chance to win a contract for a big gaming manufacturer, and these gaming manufacturers sells thousands of consoles. I mean, millions and millions of consoles. Sorry, not thousands. And you'd know them. They're very popular. They're one of the top 3 consoles in the world. And they initially gave the contract to Digital Power, but Digital Power could not demonstrate that it had the money or the devices, the depth of balance sheet. This is years before I got there. To be able to prove that they could handle this big contract that has been won by this little company to provide power supplies to this gaming console company. And so one of the things you get from defense companies is a stronger balance sheet. You get the ability for staying power. JR and the team have really turned the company around. So this made logical sense to us. And if you looked at our PowerPoint, you looked at what we've been doing over the past years, you'll see that we've been migrating towards this happening, right? We probably have talked about the idea of Gresham doing some sort of public transaction for the better part of a couple of years, especially when JR came aboard. And the logical thing about Gresham is that they own a division called Microphase, and Microphase is very similar to Gigatronics, and they're just in different parts of the United States. A lot of economies of scale there. A lot of the ability for them to do contracts together now post-closing that will obviously change the dynamics. JR talks about that a little bit in the press release, and that is, I'm going to scroll back to it. Can you go back to it? The organic and through strategic combination of smaller bespoke technology defense companies, their technology integrated with Microphase, I think, is a key component, a key driver of this. But next year, I'm going to have JR on as a special guest. He's going to talk about Gresham. So I want to just get a couple things clear before we hang up, because we're making this a really quick risk-on show, just really about the acquisition today. And that is, obviously, we're going to end up owning 2/3 of the combined company. We think that makes it stronger. They're still going to consolidate on BitNile's balance sheet till separation. If you get shares of Ault Alliance, if you're a shareholder at the time of the spinoff, you then will actually own shares indirectly of Gresham Worldwide once it's a public company and merged with Giga. So I know that's a little confusing for some people. I get really interesting questions, like really kind of blow me away type questions that people somehow think that they're not going to benefit from this. If I'm the largest shareholder, both physically and actually, not only am I a big dude, but I'm actually the largest single shareholder through various entities on a consolidated basis, fully reported basis. It's a benefit to me and all the shareholders equally that when these assets are spun off or separated, that we all share in them equally. So it's going to be a really interesting opportunity to watch these things get spun out. I'm going to go to some questions here real quickly here because I wonder if there are any. I don't know that people are tremendously paying attention to today's release. It is the end of the year. This is the 167th. Hold on. Let me demute that for a second here. Okay, so let me answer a couple of the questions. Is Nile under a mutual fund umbrella, an ETF umbrella, like Naked? No, Nile is a holding company. Nile is a holding company until it separates its all non-Bitcoin DeFi data center assets. Merry Christmas to you for sure. I asked because I really have no idea about the loans. Can Nile's stock price make any loans under... I don't know what that question is. I agree to see how DPW no longer exists. Now I've got to read the prospectus. Not a lot of questions here. Obviously, this will be replayed. We have a lot of work to do. Clearly, people do not understand the benefit, in my opinion, of what we're doing with Gresham. And my hat's off to JR, the team at Gresham Worldwide, all the lawyers involved in the acquisition, the merger. Obviously, we hope it closes in the first quarter. I encourage you to read the prospectus. Read the 8K that was released today and the background on the transaction. Those of you who are shareholders of BitNile, obviously, it's a little confusing that just because we changed the name doesn't mean we don't own all the assets we owned before the name change. When we change the name, it doesn't get rid of the assets. I get a lot of questions about that, like, where'd the assets go? They have gone nowhere. The name of the company's changed, and we're gonna break it into two companies. We've kind of outlined that pretty hard. Yeah, I think that I got a question about Naked. I think the Naked transaction closes actually tomorrow. Anyways, this is a special edition of Risk On. We have merged a division of BitNile, Gresham Worldwide. Read the press release. You'll see that Gresham will end up being a subsidiary of Ault Alliance, a 68% owned subsidiary, and a spinoff later on in 2022 of Ault Alliance would make you an indirect shareholder. If you go back to any of the previous PowerPoints, you'll see that we disclosed that we were working on transactions in this space and that ultimately Gresham wanted to have access to public markets and be an independently traded public company. Obviously, we'll be the largest shareholder. We're aiming for 2022. Obviously, we're at the mercy of things like the IRS, registration statements, other various, things that we put out in that press release that have to happen for the spinoff. But listen, it's 3 o'clock, guys, on the 28th of December. I just want to get your attention around the Gigatronics, BitNile, Gresham Worldwide acquisition. Obviously, a few days before that, we acquired the 4 hotels with Agree, all global real estate equities, run by Chris Wu. So, been buying a lot and doing a lot of asset exchanges, and the purchase of those hotels, obviously, we did for long-term cash flow purposes. We bought something we thought was undervalued. I know it's a little confusing for people. We're going to try to make it less confusing in 2022. Hey, Brett, thanks so much for hanging out today. And Nick, I appreciate everyone. We'll see you on, I think, tomorrow, right? Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow at 1:05, give or take, Pacific time for a traditional episode of Risk On. For those people involved in the Gresham transaction, congratulations to JR, Tim Long, and the team. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.